There's a saying that I always go back to that sometimes it's like God has to slap me in the face with it. It says, Jace, are you leaning on the work? Are you leaning on those day-to-day action items you need to take across body, being, balance, and business? Or are you just sitting and thinking about the same problems over and over and over again to where eventually like your mind, it's blocked? Whereas when we go and we step and we start doing daily actions in these other areas, like body, for example, and working out, it gives us a chance to clear the mind so that we can actually start maybe seeing some of these other possibilities or opportunities, or maybe God will present the problem to us, right in front of our face on what we need to do next. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Legacy Farm, the podcast. I'm your host, Jace Young, and today's topic of discussion is this: the pits and the peak of business. Over time, guys, if you're a business owner like me, you recognize the challenges that come with growing any type of business. Now, one thing about this that a lot of people miss, and the reason I'm sharing this entire podcast with you today is because I want you to understand and have the awareness of where you're at inside of business. And the reason this is coming up is because I'm also in one of those stages as well. If you're a business owner like me, you've went through, the peaks and the valleys of running a business, right? We're replacing valley with pit, because honestly, it does feel like a pit. When you go through and you're trying to build a business from nothing, like I did with Legacy Farm back in 2019, it's a struggle, right? You immediately jump into trying to solve all these problems. You're basically sitting in every seat inside of that business. You are trying to do the job of about 10 people as one human being, and you're making a lot of sacrifices along the way. And there's a lot of stories and everything that come up during that time where you just feel like you're never going to make it out, right? You're never going to see the light of day again. The tunnel is just going to stay dark forever, and you're just not going to make it out. I want you to know 100% you're not alone. Absolutely not alone. It does not matter what caliber of business owner you are. And what I mean by that, it doesn't matter if you're doing 500,000 a year, $1 million a year, 5 million a year, 10 million a year. Each business owner is going to go through a new pit at each stage of business. And the important thing is that we recognize when we are going through this. Now, we've seen this countless times working with customers inside of Legacy Farmer, where when people typically come to us, it's because they're in some type of pit, right? And it is possible to get stuck in a pit and never get out if you do not find the resources, tools, knowledge, people, or whatever it is that you need to get you back on the uphill so you can hit your next peak inside of that business. And a lot of people, unfortunately, especially in the ag industry, stay trapped in that pit forever. And they just never escape. They see the light of day, or they think they're going up to the peak again inside their business, maybe because they got their debt refinanced and restructured or something like that. They got the line of credit renewed. So now they're all happy and they feel like things are looking up going into the next year. But the thing is, though, they didn't really exit the pit, right? All they did was saw basically a little flash of light, right? Like the clouds are clearing, we can finally see the sky, and we're finally moving forward. And then all of a sudden, a week goes by, a month goes by, and things get super dark again. Honestly, a lot of people, they just repeat that cycle. Now, again, this is relevant for any business owner, not just talking in ag, but obviously my audience is ag business owners. So that's why it's relevant to you guys. Now, the important thing here, guys, is to notice when you're in that pit and understanding what's coming and what's going forward. Now, when you are in the pit, if you are in this position where you just feel like you're frozen, trust me, totally get it. What are the key actions that you need to take that are going to light the fire under your ass to get you moving forward? Now, one of the things that we talk about inside of Legacy Farmer is this concept called Core 4. If you've been listening to my podcast for a long time, you've heard about this. Now, Core 4 doesn't seem that important when things are going really well. Core 4 is the most needed when things are going really bad and you are stuck in the pit and you don't feel like there's any way out. Now, with Core 4, it's this framework that one of my mentors, Garrett J. White, created, and it's across basically 4 different areas of your life: body, being, balance, and business. Now, the thing is, like when business is going bad, you don't feel like you're going to make it out. What we tend to do is just focus on business, 100%, right? That's where the problems are at, and that's what we need to focus on, not seeing that actually what we really need to focus on is how we are performing inside of body, being, and balance. Because one thing I talk about with a lot of our customers is if your business is your boat, right? And you're trying to push your boat forward and you're trying to make it from, the USA to, or from the States to Hawaii, for example, right? Long journey there. And you're trying to get going forward. Business is your boat, right? But body, being, and balance are your anchors holding the boat back. Now, the thing is typically when we run into problems in business, we can tie it to one of those anchors. The real problem is not necessarily a business problem. It's problems in other areas of life. Now, I don't have to tell you this, but how you show up as a business owner in your business is probably pretty freaking important, right? You have to make sure that you're on point, you're focused, your head is clear, and you're thinking straight, and you're just on your game, right? You got to be on your game, especially if you're leading a team and trying to build that company culture inside of your operation that you've always wanted. Now, when we're looking at this, though, you really have to take a long, hard look and say, okay, great. Do I really have business problems, or my problems in other areas of life right now? When it comes to body, obviously that's physical fitness and overall nutrition. How are you treating your body? Because immediately for most people, especially in ag, when business starts going down, what do? First thing we start to mistreat really is our body. We don't get up and take care of ourselves. We don't eat right. We don't do any of those things right. And again, these are the cycles. These are the phases that people go through. Being is all about your mentality and really your connection to God, self-confidence, certainty. We can throw some of those terms in there. But ultimately, it comes down to what type of stories are going on up here for you. Again, if we have challenges in business, this is one of the other things that's immediately impacted, because those stories, especially if you spend the majority of the day by yourself, can really start to impact you in a very, very negative way, right? And it starts to really consume you on a day-to-day basis, and it becomes just this massive poison or cancer in your life, and it's like you don't feel like you're going to be able to escape it. The next piece here is balance. So your relationship with your spouse and your kids at home. Typically, this is, just pretty common in the industry, right? Most ag business owners struggle separating family and business, and typically we bring home the business problems to our family. Totally get it. I've made that mistake hundreds, if not thousands of times myself, whenever I'm going through the pits inside of my business as well. Now, what's important though is to understand when you're in this pit and where your focus really needs to be, because when you're in the pit, a lot of people, again, they want to focus their attention on the business, right? That's where all my problems are at. I got to work on numbers. I got to work on this. I got to go get in the tractor, whatever that is. The reality is maybe you just need to focus on the other three areas first. And maybe that's actually going to be the solve to your business problem. This is something that I'm literally living through right now inside of my life, to where I have to turn back to these other areas where I can really just start to take certain actions in each one of them and make sure that I'm on point to light that fire to get me moving forward inside of business. Because every time you hit this new level of growth, which we are currently at in Legacy Farm, where we're trying to go to that next level, you have to go through the pit first, and the pit's going to suck. It's going to be full of constant challenges and seem like this never ending adversity going on inside of your life. And it's just a constant challenge, and you hate it and it sucks. And yeah, you just feel like it's never going to end. The thing is though, is that sitting there and just thinking about those problems over and over and over and over again, probably not going to solve them, right? Probably not going to solve them. When the reality is the answer can come to you when you start taking actions in some of those other areas, like going and working out, for example, right? There's one common saying or quote that I heard a long time ago that says, in order to tame the mind, you must first exhaust the body. What that means is the only way to stop all the stories up here and actually have a clear outlook on life and where you're at and what the problem is you first have to exhaust the body. And I mean like true exhaustion, because when you're truly exhausted, you don't even have the energy to make up the stories up here, right? It's a very, very powerful concept. If you can understand that, it can be a game changer for you. A lot of the events that I've went through in my life, like SEAL Fit or Warrior Week or anything like that, they put you through the first part of those events are going to be what they call the beat down. They're going to exhaust you mentally, so that when it comes time for you to learn and think deeply, and they're going to teach you some things, they want to make sure that there's no stories blocking that information coming in, so that you're just accepting of everything. So that's the important piece around body. Stories, we use a tool inside of Legacy Farmer called the Stack. I've talked about that before. That is the tool that we use to dissect and really analyze those stories to find out and separate out the emotions and the reaction to what the facts are, right? And what our response really needs to be and what actions we need to take from it. When it comes to balance, obviously it's just making sure you're spending valuable and quality time with your family, whether that's sending messages, not necessarily valuable time. Yes, we want to, but I mean taking some additional actions there, whether it's flowers, sending a text message or whatever that is there to your family, whether that's your spouse and your kids there at home. Now, all those things though, once we turn our focus and we really start to get those other areas of life on point, then all of a sudden it's like naturally things start happening inside the business as well. So the reason I share this entire thing with you is because I am reminded again today, whenever we get into the pits of business and things aren't going well, there's a saying that I always go back to that sometimes it's like God has to slap me in the face with it. It says, Jace, are you leaning on the work? And what I mean is on the work, when he says, are you leaning on the work? Are you leaning on those day-to-day action items you need to take across body, being, balance, and business, right? Are you really doing what you need to do there? Or are you just sitting and thinking about the same problems over and over and over again, to where eventually like your mind, it's blocked, right? You can't even think about, you can't even see any other possibilities if you're just constantly thinking about the problem. Whereas when we go and we step and we start doing daily actions in these other areas, like body, for example, and working out, it gives us a chance to clear the mind. It gives us a chance to think about something else for a minute and start to clear the mind so that we can actually start maybe seeing some of these other possibilities or opportunities, or maybe, God will present the problem to us, right in front of our face on what we need to do next. Or maybe things will just solve themselves. And there's sometimes you have problems in business where you just need to be patient, let things happen, let God bring things to you, and you move forward that way. But again, sitting there thinking about the problem over and over again isn't ultimately going to solve it. We got to work on these other areas. So my question for you at the end of this podcast is, what are the anchors in your life right now, right? Across body, being, and balance, What are those anchors, right? Where are things do you feel like are just falling apart there that really need your focus and attention that would ultimately solve a lot of the business problems or could solve a lot of the business problems? And what are you doing on a day-to-day basis to make sure that happens? So my friends, at the end of the day, make sure you are leaning on the work, especially when you're hitting these pits of building a business. And again, it doesn't matter if you're starting out at 100,000 a year in revenue, a million, 5 million, 10 million, does not matter. Every business owner I know, including myself, when we're trying to hit this next level of growth in the business, we're going to go through the pit. In that pit, we need to be reminded to lean on the daily work. So my friends, that concludes this episode. Hope you found it valuable, and we will catch you on the next one.